You are listening to the Delay and Pray podcast, episode number 80.
Welcome to the Delay and Pray podcast, where certified Catholic and weight loss coach Beth Bubick teaches you how to permanently lose weight through spiritual fasting. Get ready to gain faith and lose weight through a joyful transformation of both body and soul. Now, your host, Beth, the Catholic Fasting Coach.
Hello, my friends. I hope you are well. Oh my gosh, all is definitely well right here. We just launched the new book, Delay and Pray, and the third cohort of the Delay and Pray group coaching experience has begun. We are busy over here, and blissfully so. There is something about following your God-given mission that makes even the most challenging schedules totally worth the exhaustion. I highly recommend. And guess what? Summer is coming, or should I say it's here. And it's only May, but the weather is so beautiful here in Michigan and the boat has been delivered, so it's time to enjoy the sunshine and the water. Today, I have a special guest on the podcast who is close to my heart. She is an artist and so much more. What are your feelings about art? Does it inspire you? Do you take the time to go to art museums and slowly walk through and gaze on paintings and sculptures of really talented people? Are you willing to slow down and just ponder some beautiful artwork? I just walked the Art Museum of St. Louis, Missouri. We were visiting our grandson, and as my husband and I slowly walked through with him in the stroller, we were struck by all the cultural expressions throughout the decades. We haven't really been in an art museum in a long time. And if you let it, art can really broaden your viewpoint and elicit an appreciation for the artist and the culture that is showing their emotional message to the world. Art and music are immense motivators for me, especially when it comes to fasting and praying with Delay and Pray. When I feel down or have a craving due to negative feelings, I can experience an instant pick-me-up if I just put on some wonderful music and take a walk. Artwork also inspires me. I love to look at lovely images and learn about the true meaning behind the image. The image is always more lovely when the inspired meaning behind it is revealed. I do have quite a bit of religious art in my home, and I love it. I am constantly reminded of Christ's presence within me and my home as I see him and his Blessed Mother on almost every wall. The crucifix is the most popular and pious piece of artwork here. I have one placed in about every room as a reminder of his love for us and for me. There are many renditions for sure, but all with the same message. I am going to be adding one more piece of artwork to my dining room. I'm so excited. And this would be the feet of Jesus as painted by Joanne Von Zwehl. Wait until you hear the discussion of the inspiration behind these 6 images of Jesus's feet. You are going to love it, and I cannot wait. Joanne and I met through a dear client, Betsy Bayo, who enrolled in the Delay and Pray group coaching experience last summer. They are close friends, and they introduced me to Sister Dee Dee and are involved in a place called Rosa Mystica House of Prayer. Since 1975, the retreat grounds have served as a place of physical, emotional, and spiritual healing, all while sharing a special message from Our Lady herself. Miracles happen there, my friends, and we're going to talk about them. Joanne serves as the president of the Rosa Mystica House of Prayer Foundation in upstate New York. With a deep commitment to fostering spiritual growth and a passion for the arts, Joanne has seamlessly connected her dual roles as a leader in the religious community and a celebrated artist. As a visionary behind Rosa Mystica and with the guidance of Our Lady of Rosa Mystica, Joanne has transformed the spiritual retreat location into a haven for those seeking solace, reflection, and spiritual renewal. We are going to hear some interesting stories about her art and this beautiful place today and how they are intertwined. Joanne has a special interest in prayer, fasting, and adoration, and she's going to tell us why. Her artwork is beautiful, and she is here to share her message of changing your life through prayer and art, specifically through her very religious and patriotic works. Her message is clear. All children of Christ unite and fight for life. Isn't this the message of our times? And her artwork will inspire you to fast for these times as well. So now we welcome Joanne Von Zwehl to the podcast. Hi, Joanne. How are you doing today? Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, Beth. How are you? And thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited for this honor.
Oh, I am honored that you're here, really. So, why don't you start out telling us a little bit about your background as an artist and what you're doing today?
Okay. I actually started out as a business major. I was one of 6 children, and I wanted to go to art school. I always wanted to be an artist. And my father said, I have 6 children. I'm not supporting anyone. You're going to business school. So off to business school I went. And I went into finance, became relatively successful. And then I had adopted 3 children. And I said, I cannot be in this career and have the children and everything, and I have no peace and not enough God in my life. So I started going to night school with little kids to learn how to paint. It was my New Year's resolution one year. And then from there, I became an artist. So it was a total change. And then the other thing that I do is run Rosa Mystica House of Prayer, which is a whole nother story.
Wow. Well, what's beautiful about that? I mean, your dad, how beautiful that he had you go to business school because that probably helps you run Rosa Mystica House of Prayer, right?
I think the business school helps with everything, the art as well, because there's a business side of everything. There's a business side of art, there's a business side of running ministry. And it was all that experience that I received that helps me do all that now and all that life experience. And I don't think God ever wastes anything.
No, he doesn't. It's so funny because I was an engineering major, kind of like you. I left high school, and I think I chose engineering because my cousin was an engineer. And back in the day, in the 80s, there weren't a whole lot of women that were engineers. She was doing well. She had a corporate life with Whirlpool, kind of
Wow.
in my surrounding area. And I thought, wouldn't that be fun? And I had the math grades, and so got a little scholarship, and so off I went. And I didn't really super enjoy it. I mean, it was great, paid the bills.
Right.
And then I moved into more like sales. And then that was super fun because then I was like, okay, this is where I'm at. I'm talking to people, I'm doing demos. And then I moved into life coaching. Always have been a self-help junkie. But I do believe the engineering background did help as well. Just figuring things out and knowing that there's always a solution to any problem.
Yeah. And
figured
even
it out.
sales is your love of talking to people. And that's kind of the intro to what you do now.
Yes. Exactly. So you're right. God doesn't waste anything. Okay. So I want to tell the story where I actually met you for the first time through your artwork in 2009. I first met you personally in 2023, but I knew of you in 2009, but I didn't know it until I started seeing your artwork through a friend that was a client last summer, Betsy Bayo.
Right.
And she actually took the course last summer and introduced me to you and Sister Dee Dee Byrne. And this has just been a phenomenal relationship between all of us. And then I went online and looked at your artwork and I'm like, wait a minute. I actually used your artwork as a Catholic school teacher in 2009. I was the Right to Life moderator and we had a booth in the gym and there was prizes for like best booth, first, second, third. And we won first place because we used your beautiful artwork. It was called Children of Christ, Artwork and Prayer by Joanne Von Zwehl. And I had one of my beautiful students actually redraw it on a mural. And it's like little babies in bubbles that are floating up to the sky. And then you wrote this beautiful prayer. And if I can remember correctly, we had the prayer written out and it was really big. So I'm going to read the prayer real quickly. It's just so beautiful. And so I knew you before I knew you. I mean, this is just like, oh my
amazing.
gosh. I know. And here's the prayer. Today I had a nightmare. It was scary as can be. From inside my mother's womb, I was taken so violently. No longer would I live and feel God's life in me. I knew it was a nightmare. This was not God's plan for me. He wove me in your womb so I may be a blessing to all humanity. I feel, I touch, I am alive. Mommy, tell me it can't be. Today I had a nightmare. I would be taken from thee. Let me stay another day. Let me grow to be me. Oh, I'm getting emotional. Woo!
You know what? I've read that before on different interviews and I've never made through without crying. I used to not be able to say it. And I got there. Actually, the Lord told me to do that painting in adoration. And then somebody, I think it went to my mother and said, the Lord wants your daughter to write something about it. And I said, how do you write about that? So back to adoration I go and I'm praying and the Lord gave it to me from a baby standpoint of view.
Oh.
which was, I mean, I always say it was above my pay grade. That's how I always know when
Oh,
things are from the Lord.
yeah. Well, it's so beautiful. And the last two lines, just by the way, and I'm going to put this in the show notes. So anyone who wants it, they can see it. And I'll put links to all of Joanne's artwork. The last two lines are, God so loved me, he gave me life. Please don't take my life from me. Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. So I just think this is interesting how I thought it was beautiful then. And so what was interesting about the high school then is that the Right to Life Club at that time in 2009 at St. Joe High School had about 30 kids in it, boys and girls. And some of the girls, we had this conversation because they had said, well, Mrs. Bubick, don't you think that's a little extreme? I mean, even the prayer and babies in bubbles, these are aborted babies that are floating up to heaven. And we ended up having this beautiful conversation about it. And we actually took this prayer and we literally as a group talked about it for like an entire hour. And it wasn't, I didn't say anything. Pretty soon it was other girls and boys who were literally talking about how I think if I was a baby in a mom's womb and I was being aborted, I think I would feel like it was a nightmare. And then how much we loved both the baby and the mom making the decision.
Okay, now you're making me cry.
I know. But this was
making me cry. My God, that was
so
beautiful.
Yeah. So these are the students at the time.
Wow.
Now, as I'm recording this with you, it is 2024. I'd like to hear a classroom. I don't know if there even are Right to Life clubs anymore. I'm sure there are. But anyway, so it was a beautiful conversation. And basically what we came up with was, yes, it's extreme. And sometimes we need to understand the extreme. Sometimes it's only the extreme that can move us out of a terrible problem. And so this is what we had in the booth. We won first place in all the ministry fair, which probably had, big high school. So we're talking, I don't know, 25, 30 booths, maybe. So it was beautiful. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because God is so good. He doesn't waste anything. He's always working. That's John 5:17. The Father is always working. And then Jesus says, and I am too. We have to work too. But the Father is always working. So he's going to bring us together when he needs us. And so he brought us together through Betsy, who signed up for the program last summer. So tell me, Joanne, about this series of paintings on the feet of Jesus that right now I'm a little obsessed about. I just love it. And tell me a little bit about that. And then I want to go into your work at Rosa Mystica.
I had originally been hired to do the cover of Cora Evans' book, Refugee from Heaven. And they knew my work. They said, you could do whatever you want. So I was reading the book over again, and I was sitting on the beach, and I'm on vacation. I'm reading it over, and I'm thinking to myself, Christ goes here, and Christ goes there, and then Christ is here, and then he's walking here, he's walking. And it just dawned on me, I'm like, it's all in the feet. If our hearts and our souls don't want to move, our feet still have to keep going. We have to be Christ-like. We have to take out the mission. We have to move forward. So I said, wow, what an amazing series of paintings it would be just depicting the feet. And by doing that, too, something really interesting happens, because when you just show a snippet of something, your brain fills in the rest of the painting. So it might be something that we see all the time, like the crucified Christ is an image we see a lot. But when you see the crucified feet, now you go into the whole story yourself, and you have your own interpretations and your own view of things. So it really engages the viewer so much more than regular paintings, because it makes us say, wait, what is this? What is that? So with it, I started with the Blessed Mother, with holding Jesus as a baby. So like in our lives, that's how we start. And then I go to Jesus and Joseph, and their feet are just touching together, like an intimate moment, but like a father-son intimate moment.
So we started with the infant, and then how old is Jesus with Joseph?
Like 12 years old.
Beautiful.
And then when I go through, I'll just run through at the end, kind of how it depicts our lives too. And then there's the walking on the water, and then the crucifixion, then the resurrection, which is just the feet of Christ, the imprint of his feet coming out of the tomb, and the ascension. So in life too, we're born, there's so much hope, We have our families, relationships, the father and the son. And then we're walking on water in life. We just got married. We got a new job. We have new grandchildren. Life is great. But in life, after walking on water, we're not living in eternity. There's the crucifixion. Things fall apart. There's divorce. There's deaths. There's other things that our life goes in shambles. And if we stay with the Lord and we stay in prayer, we get resurrected. People might not know we're different, but we're different. We're stronger in our faith. We're stronger in our journey. And we keep using our feet and moving forward. And then the ascension gives us hope. And we have to have the hope, and the process kind of starts over again. So that's why I picked those particular feet images for the series.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And just for our audience, we are recording this on Ascension Thursday. So that is beautiful. There's no coincidences. God planned that. But it's true. There's hope. And it's interesting because what you're saying is there's always going to be suffering.
Always.
Even in the joyful moments, there's suffering because there's childbirth before the baby is born. When we are struggling as a teenager at the age of 12, 13, 14, as a young teen with our fathers, there's struggle there, but there's beauty as well. There's always this juxtaposition of joy and sorrow, and we learn to hold both. And so to accept the suffering with the joy, isn't that the crux of it all?
Yes, right. And it's so difficult. And there is after the suffering is joy. And you appreciate the joy while it's there, because there is a suffering. Nothing stays the same. But if we stay centered in Christ, in our faith, we can go through the valleys and the dips and get through.
Yes, absolutely. And so are these all single paintings? Are they available for purchase?
Yes, we do sell them, Rosa Mystica. I donate all the copies of the artwork to raise money for ministry work, and all the pro-life work too. I donate all that. So we do sell them there, but the originals, it's actually great. I have an old house from 1859 upstate, and all the time we're having priests and deacons and religious people, and Sister Dee Dee, she's been there. And in the dining room, there's 12 chairs. And then all across the dining room is the life of Christ and his feet, and they're 3 by 3 each one. And then over the fireplace looks like a monstrance with the mirror, and it's really beautiful.
Wow.
And it's great conversation at dinner because somebody's always sitting across from a different one, and they get engrossed in that. And
it sounds like the Rosa Mystica version of the Upper Room.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm going to be in that room one day. I'm going to come and
You
see
are
you.
definitely coming.
Yes, yes, yes. So Joanne is in New York, and that is where Rosa Mystica is. And why don't you tell us a little bit about this beautiful house of prayer?
Rosa Mystica is in upstate New York, Edmonston. It's really kind of in the middle of nowhere. But I'll give you a real short version of how we got involved. My father was very successful, sold his company, was living the life for just about a year with all the goods. And he said, this is ridiculous. I need to get into heaven. And this is so unfulfilling. We always think, oh, if I had this and I had this, I'll be so happy. So we got all that stuff. And he's like, I'm just not doing it. So him and my mother started a foundation, and we built like 44 churches, convents, novitiates all over the world. My mother was Irish, so loved working with the poor. We educated thousands of seminarians, and somebody got us involved in Rosa Mystica. It was an abandoned chapel upstate New York, and it was originally the Blessed Mother, which this is wonderful to think about this. She appeared to a nun in Italy, and during the apparition, she was coming as Our Lady of Rosa Mystica, and she gave coordinates, the latitude and longitude, but they didn't know they were coordinates. They couldn't figure out what the numbers were. They figured out it was latitude and longitude. Mother Leonardi came all the way from Italy to upstate New York. And what did she do? Prayer, fasting, and adoration for 3 weeks. And if this is where the Blessed Mother wants us to build a house of refuge and a holy place, she did the prayer, fasting, and adoration, decided that that's what they would do. There was some Franciscan friars from Canada and a priest from Brooklyn. They built it, but after a while it got abandoned, and we kind of unwillingly got involved in it. The person got us involved, left. And so we did what you always do when you're just a wonderful Catholic, is we try to get rid of it and get out of there. And when you make plans, God laughs, right? He's like,
That's true.
sure, you're not going anywhere. So anyway, we were giving the property away for free. And the priest we were giving it to had a stroke at the day of closing, couldn't close, was fine the next day, but wouldn't take it. This kind of thing happened like 3 times. And somebody came to my mother and said, the Blessed Mother told me to tell you that this is your mission now. America's in trouble. And so this is where, so now we built it up from the original chapel to, there's 4 other chapels. There's 160 acres now. There's a patriotic rosary walk. We have a relic museum with over 100 verified relics. And we do retreats all the time with well-known priests and speakers. And really what we're doing is building people up in their faith, that they can come back home with a renewed faith and spread our faith. Because I believe it's a time in history, too, where we as lay people have to stand up for our church.
Yes, yes. We have to have moral courage.
Moral courage, yes.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a couple questions. First of all, Betsy texts me pictures of adoration many mornings.
Right.
Is that the one from Rosa Mystica?
Yes, yes. So we do.
Okay.
Usually, hopefully, we get 48 hours a weekend, but our second, when we do a retreat, we'll do nocturnal adoration. And then Betsy actually runs a program, but Father Blunt came to Rosa Mystica a few years ago.
I love him.
I love him. And when he was there, he got a message for us. And the message was that in the Adoration Chapel, that every Monday to Tuesday, Father Blunt's is very specific, we need to do adoration for 24 hours to end abortion, and that abortion will end in New York first and the United States from that Adoration Chapel. So,
whoa.
And coming from Father, that's a big statement. So we were obedient, and Betsy's been running that and doing it. And what's been amazing is since we started a few years back, laws have been changing and other things. So for us, we're just continue to be obedient, and it's great because we have a beautiful big chalet house up there. So we ask groups to come in. We just ask for $25 cleaning fee and for each one, and then cover the 24 hours. So prayer groups come in, and some people come from like 5-6 hours away. They bring their whole group, and they just go and cover each hour, and then they all get to stay there in prayer, and it's just beautiful.
It is beautiful. And the Holy Spirit is putting something on my heart right now. It's interesting. So going back to the feet. So the reason why the feet is so beautiful is because it is the tool for us to move forward. And you're right. Sometimes your heart, your mind, your soul is a little bit stuck, and you just move forward. You either go for a walk, you just go do the thing that you're scared to do. You just go do it. You go get the job. You go do the resume. You go do it. You go meet the people and you just move. You get unstuck. You just move your feet, right? Very, very practical, actually. But then you have John 12:1, when you have Mary anointing the feet of Jesus, that sacrificial love. And Judas is saying that is not practical. That's very expensive. We should give that money to the poor. And then Jesus says that, the poor will always be with you. This is what she needs to do right now. That reminds me of art and how beautiful art is, and our cathedrals in the Catholic Church and our crucifixes, and just artwork and how it moves us from one place to another. It moves our heart. So it's like this combination of the practical with the aesthetics of just being moved by something that we cannot see. And it's this beautiful combination of the two of them that I think is so necessary today. And adoration, I'm actually making a point here. Adoration, if you think about it, some people say, adoration for how long? Well, you might start with like an hour a week and then maybe go to 2. And they're like, 2 hours of adoration? Really? What do you do there? You just gaze upon Jesus and let him gaze upon you, and you just look up, right? So you're just looking at him. You can definitely say a rosary, you can read, but the more I do adoration, the more I just want to sit the more I just want to gaze at him and have him gaze at me and have this love affair with Jesus right there. And it helps my whole life. And so I want to tell people that's what I want for everyone, is just to get into adoration and just let the Lord love you there and just be quiet, get on your knees, sit, whatever you want. And reading a religious book or the Bible is beautiful. And saying a rosary for sure. But if you could just get at least half of it, just quietly gazing upon him, he will let you know exactly what you need to do, where you need to go, and how you need to do it. And I heard a priest say this one time, and it's true. It's useless. Like according to the world, it's useless time. And he said, I think it was Father Barron. He said, don't we all just need to be useless sometimes?
Wow.
You know? And it's like, we need to go in front of adoration. We need these beautiful chapels. And I know Betsy, when she texts me these pictures, I'm always like, gosh, that's gorgeous. Because you can see it's windows behind the monstrance. And you can see, I believe it's mountains.
Yes.
Oh, it's so beautiful. So we need to be like Mary and spill that perfumed oil on Jesus's feet and just love him in adoration. And this is where we bring our sins. This is where we bring just ourselves, our humanness. And that's where he heals us. That's where he heals us.
I find, like, for me too, when the first time I went, my mother had me in the car and she explained where we're going. I said, I'm not going there. I'm a single mother. I got 3 kids. You go. And then I went there and I felt a little something. And then I started going back. And then after a while, the Lord said to me, I don't hear audible voice, but write down what I'm telling you. Now I can't even tell you how many years of diaries though. And I'm like, this is like free therapy.
It is.
Like he's always leading me and gently leading me. And then when I read the things over, or when I'm really in a bad place and I'm stuck, and I go back in my notes, and then the Lord makes us promises, and those promises are there. And even if it's 10 years, I know when the Lord makes a promise, it happens. And for me, adoration, where 90% of my ideas for paintings come from, and poems, and it's just incredible. And as you say too, just sitting there, like soaking it in and just relaxing. Like sometimes I get in there and I'm like, what? Like when I go to relax, I got like I'm breathing, like my heart's going fast. I'm like, you're crazy. Just sit down and just be with Jesus. And then you can just see how fast you were moving before you got in there and how much you needed to stop. And it's the only time we let the feet stop.
It's the only time we just rest our feet.
Yeah.
I think that's where we rest at the feet of the Lord is in adoration. We rest at his feet. I find it interesting because I had the same thing when I first started adoration years and years ago. I had kids. The kids were young, and I just went with a friend. And I remember I was like, well, I'll say my rosary. And then I had a prayer book and I would read that. And I was kind of looking at my watch. And then it got to the point where I would go and I'd be like, okay, the first I need to say a rosary. And it was almost like a task. And so then now I say the rosary at the end because I say it differently in adoration. I was like, I'm just really, and I'm not rattling it off. I'm just really communing with the Blessed Mother in the heart of Jesus and just being there with him and for him. And it's absolutely beautiful. And that is where you will get your answers, everyone.
It's where you get your answers. I mean, it's amazing.
It's amazing. And Fulton Sheen said in one of his YouTube videos, because I always have him on YouTube, he said if every family went to 1 hour of adoration and monthly confession, that there would be unity in that family. He said it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And so think about that. And I tell all of my children and their spouses is if all of us think about that monthly confession, monthly confession, that's just once a month. Okay, that's not a lot. And then an hour a week of adoration, what we could do with families. Talk about America.
Right.
America, all our problems would be solved. Abortion would be solved. Everything would be solved. It's interesting, but we can't take an hour a week. We have an hour for mass, an hour of adoration. And those of us, I go to daily mass, but I mean, he didn't say daily mass. He said an hour of adoration a week and monthly confession. And that's where we're going to learn that the Lord has this providence. We're under his providence. We're under his protection. And he always keeps his promise. We just have to find it interiorly. We have to find him.
And we're living this life for eternal life too. And what happens though in this life when we do these practices is we realize how unimportant a lot of things that cause us a lot of angst are, and who cares?
Who cares?
And you're just so happy because you have the joy of Christ. It's real joy, but that joy is from the process of letting go. And it's not God saying, let this go, let that go. It's you saying, why did I think that was so
Why?
important? Why did I need to say that to somebody? They didn't want to hear that. And you just you just become such a better person.
Yeah, yeah. I want everyone to hear that story about your dad, because I have a chapter in my book called Happy, Thin, and Rich. And if you ask, like in the life coach school, it was secular, everybody wants to be, what do you want to do? I want to be happy, thin, and rich. I want to make $1 million.
You can't be rich enough or thin enough, right?
Can't be rich enough for that. And then what's funny is what she talks about in there, even in the secular world, is that when you reach that thin and you really haven't changed yourself in the journey. Okay. So as a Catholic, so I always was infusing my Catholicity even into that secular school, but I went to a Catholic life coach school then, and then I filled in all of the holes. Okay. Yeah. The secular one left. And if you don't enjoy the journey and really get to know Christ on the journey because God wants you to be thin, but what is thin? That's the thing. And that's what you have to really understand as a client. When I coach the women is just like, listen, let's go for optimal health. And they have a hard time. I had a hard time with switching from thin because of the diet mentality that's in me to optimal health in body and soul. So my blood work is amazing. I'm not on any medication. I love to exercise. I love to move. I feel great. I play pickleball and golf and do these things, right? And then I'm able to do charity work. I'm able to be helpful in my church, be helpful to my children, be helpful around the lake. And then soul-wise, I'm getting fit in my soul, because we are body soul composites. We're integrated from head to toe. There's no way to separate them. We think of like souls over here, bodies over here. It's not. It's all together. So whatever is good for the body is good for the soul, and vice versa. And so what's interesting is your dad goes out and he makes a ton of money and he's not fulfilled. It's the same way with weight loss. You can get super thin. You can take Ozempic and you can go. Everybody's on Ozempic now almost. It's with Noom. It's with Weight Watchers now. It's kind of sad. And it's this easy ticket. You don't have to work on yourself. Okay. Now, we won't even go into it because there's a lot of side effects that are not good. A lot of people are gaining their weight back. Okay. So we won't go into that. All I'm trying to say is when you get to
the health component out.
Oh, taking the health component totally out. And so you get to thin, no matter how you do it, unless you're spiritual fasting. And then you're like, okay, so I'm thin, but I didn't change.
Right.
Like I'm still this person and I'm not happy with her.
Right.
Whereas when you're spiritually fasting, it's like this journey and the Lord is he's always pruning you. And we are perfected in perseverance. So if you don't persevere, then the Lord can't perfect you. That's Saint Catherine of Siena. So we have to persevere and we have to hold the joy and the sorrow so that together we get to that weight. And sure, we get to optimal health, but we're getting to optimal health in soul. It's body and soul. And it feels so good. Yeah.
And you know what, too? It doesn't matter how rich, how thin, if you don't have that balance, I read somewhere we're a three-legged stool. So we're physical, psychological, and spiritual. And if one of those things are off balance, if our physical is off balance, or if we're sitting there, eating Twinkies and we're a hot mess, how are we bringing people to the Lord?
Right.
But we need to be in balance. If the balance of all those together is, and then people say, well, I kind of want to be like that person. They have joy. They take care of themselves. They're thinking clearly. And that's what happens from following the Lord and spending that time.
Yes, yes. And virtue is practice in the moderation. So that's really where we want to be. That's optimal health is we don't have to give up the wine, but we don't need to drink it every night. We don't have to give up the sugar, but we don't have to eat it every day. It's this virtuous moderation. Yeah, that is so beautiful. So the other thing I wanted to say was I used to have these starter kits that I used to send to people's houses. And I think Betsy was mailed one of those, but it's really hard for me now that more people are joining to send them. My husband and I used to pack those up and send them by mail. But in the ones I did last summer, it was Fast for Freedom. And I actually put your patriotic rosary card. Betsy sent me a bunch of those and I put them in each box along with all the things like a patriotic rosary and patriotic Catholic Fasting Coach Tumblr, and of course my workbook and a mug and all these other things. So how beautiful that America's in trouble and that Our Lady of Rosa Mystica is specifically praying for America.
Yeah.
And we are in trouble. And so you also have beautiful patriotic art,
Oh, thank you.
on your
Thank you.
website. So are these things that we can actually purchase online?
Yes, if you go to rosamysticaofamerica.org, the artwork is for sale on there.
Okay.
And the Lord put the God and country in my heart years and years ago. And people would be like, do you have somebody in the military? I'm like, no. But what God showed me too is that these people are out there, they're putting their lives on the lines for us. And one time in adoration, I got that every time a soldier dies, the Blessed Mother goes and gets them because they sacrificed their life just like her son.
Oh,
Is that just so
that's
moving?
so beautiful.
So I have all these patriotic paintings, but also in the Rosary Walk, what are we doing to help save our country? We need to pray the Rosary, the patriotic Rosary, for our country, and each bead is a state and a Hail Mary together. And when we feel helpless in these times, prayer never goes to waste.
Mm-mm. No. And it's interesting that there's 50 Hail Marys.
I know.
Yeah, in one set of mysteries. And so 50 states.
Yeah, right.
There's no coincidences. It's just how God designed it. Super easy to do. But thank you for doing that because it's beautiful. I would advise everyone to go, and especially around 4th of July. That was a big hit for women to enroll in my courses to fast for freedom. And especially this year where we have an election coming up, and it's going to be pivotal, everyone. We know that. We know that from a pro-life standpoint, from American standpoint. So fasting and praying and going to adoration and daily mass if you can, confession at least monthly. Yeah. I mean, these are all the things that really can change these are useless things that can change the world. I mean, it's like the world looks at them and it's like, well, I don't see that they're really practical. Well, they're not, but they're the most practical. It's like it tips everything on its head. It's like dieting versus spiritual fasting. Spiritual fasting tips the dieting on its head. The adoration, the confession, the daily mass, the prayer, fasting tips all the worldly stuff on its head. Yeah.
And the fasting too tips your body back into balance too, physically.
Yes.
And it's amazing. And that diet mentality never is going to work. But fasting, like I'm a total amateur reader on the fasting, but it's unbelievable what it does. And I'm so excited about getting the opportunity. I'm going to read your book because personally, until I met you, I said, okay, I'm doing too much fasting for health or weight or anything else and not enough spiritually. So I'm really looking forward to that inspiration of doing it spiritually because that's the component that I think, like everything else in my life, that keeps things solid and going. Not like a fad diet, not
right.
3-day military diet.
No, right. Well, what's beautiful about spiritual fasting is I studied it and I realized you're marrying both. So you have a physical goal and a spiritual goal. So I think about it like running a marathon. So if you're going to run a marathon and then you say, well, we're going to take out the mile markers and we're not going to do it together. You're just going to do it on your own. Well, that's a miserable experience.
Yeah.
Like that's a miserable experience. So you're going to join a marathon. You're going to sign up. You're excited for the challenge. You're excited for the journey. There's mile markers to show you, okay, here's how far you're going. And that's like the scale. And then once you hit your weight and you're like, okay, I'm optimal health. My blood work looks good. I'm working with my doctor. Everything looks good. Then you can put a different physical goal in. It could be like a financial breakthrough or healing of other people in your family. It could be healing of somebody that has a problem with sexual identity. Like it could be all kinds of things. Okay. Then you have your spiritual goals, and your spiritual goals are the ones that are huge, and you marry them. So to fast for the ending of abortion, to fast for your family to be converted, I think I might have earlier just kind of mixed up the spiritual and the physical, but you get my point. So you have these physical goals, which are like bank accounts and scales where you can actually measure them. Like, okay, that's that. And then you have these spiritual goals, which are the unseen that you're just fasting and praying for. And if you marry the two of them, God's in both. Because the problem with dieting and like financial stuff, we're always trying so hard to like make it better. Kind of like you said, getting rich.
Right.
And, and it's just not going to work. You have to marry it with the spirituality and let the Lord do his merry work. And then sometimes he's not going to give you what you want.
You
And then
know
you're
what
okay with that.
I think? I think it's almost like we were talking about with the rosary, with adoration, with fasting, you have to try it.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rosary, when I started the rosary, I'm like, what? Why, how is this going to make a difference in my life? Wow. Did praying the daily rosary, what a life changer. But I don't know how that, but it happened. And two, adoration, life changer happens, and fasting. And then what's incredible, back to Mother Leonardi, though, she comes to this country and she does the prayer, fasting, and adoration. So unless we try these things, we don't know. And when you try them, then you get hooked because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, there really is something to this. And I think the
Yes.
first time that we met on the phone, I was in the middle of a fast, or I had just finished one, so that I was
Yay.
like, oh my goodness, that's what I'm doing now. And you're on the phone.
It's so true. And even with the rosary, you have the physical rosary
Right.
and you're actually praying spiritually. And so you're marrying the two. It's no different. It's always like a physical piece and a spiritual piece. And I mean, I can say the rosary if I'm walking, on my fingers, because I have 10 fingers, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's not the same. It'll do in a pinch, right? But
Right.
to actually hold a beautiful rosary in your
Yes.
hands, especially one that's been maybe gifted to you by the Vatican or
Right.
a special shrine, when it's blessed, there's something about it that's so holy. It's a sacramental and it does something. And so that's what I want people to understand is it's just marrying the spiritual and the physical parts together. It's just so nice. So I wanted to get into a little bit of your stories about Rosa Mystica and Padre Pio.
Okay.
You call him your spiritual director
Yes.
of Rosa Mystica. So tell us a little about that.
Well, how we call him our spiritual director is that, well, let me just go back a little bit. We have a car on the premises, and there's a sign out of Padre Pio's car. But there was a gentleman on Long Island that picked him up hitchhiking and wasn't that faithful, didn't really know about anything about him. He was dying of cancer. I'll make the story really short, but he's dying of cancer. He picks him up. He's never picked up a hitchhiker in his life. Then the hitchhiker says, do you mind if I pray for you? Then he lays hands on the cancer, and this guy's like, what is going on? And then he gets asked to be dropped off on Jerusalem Avenue on Long Island, and then he disappears. So the guy goes to the doctor. He's totally cured of cancer, and he doesn't know what just happened, and he calls the guy the baker because he was dressed in a baker's suit. So a few years later, he gets a different kind of illness, and his daughter comes home. She goes, Dad, I went to this prayer group and I've got this card for you, and I just feel like you're going to be healed again. And she gives him the card. She goes, here's the card of the saint. And he goes, that's not a saint, that's the hitchhiker. So he didn't realize for years. So anyway, it became one of the miracles in the Vatican for Padre Pio's beatification. And he donated, we have a strong devotion to Padre Pio. He donated the card to Rosa Mystica. So we have it in there, and we do confessions in there. People go and they sit in there and they pray. But since then, also, we've had lots of sightings of Padre Pio. So about 2 years ago, we had a priest from Divine Mercy came to do a weekend retreat, and he goes back to his cottage. And Padre
Was that
Pio,
Father Chris? Was that Father Chris
no,
Eller? Oh,
no, it wasn't Father Chris will be at Rosa Mystica this
oh,
year. He is
okay.
coming to Rosa Mystica, but it was
Okay.
a Spanish priest from there.
Okay.
And Padre Pio gave him direction, mostly personal, all night. And at the end, Padre Pio said, please tell them, being us, for the Rosa Mystica, that I am Padre Pio, the spiritual director of Rosa Mystica. Isn't
Oh,
that
beautiful.
amazing? So how lucky, and we have a big Padre Pio feast day. We have his glove every year. We have in the Relic Museum lots of Padre Pio relics. There was another gigantic group, an Indian group, and one of the girls just didn't believe in adoration. She wouldn't go. And she went everywhere else, but she goes, that's too much for me to believe. So she stayed back at her cottage. She hears like a bang sound. She goes outside and she sees him like a monk, she said. And he sits down on the steps and starts talking to her about adoration. And the girl shows up at adoration, and everybody, it's a large group. There's hundreds of them. They're like, what is she doing here? Like, why? All of a sudden, for all the places they go, she wouldn't go. And then she explained, oh, the monk. The monk. They were like, there is no monk here. Like, and then, through pictures, it was Padre Pio. So we've had numerous encounters with Padre Pio, and we have devotional places to pray there for Padre Pio, and really a strong connection. And Mother Leonardi, who first came there, Padre Pio was her spiritual director.
Oh, there's the connection right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it all ties
Oh.
in.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And interesting enough, so Sister Dee Dee asked me to go to Spain, France, and Portugal on the
Yes.
pilgrimage. Yes, for Sister Philip Marie. And Bishop Strickland is going, and some board members from Rosa Mystica,
Yes,
right? I
yes.
cannot wait to meet everyone,
Oh, it's going to
on
be amazing.
this pilgrimage. And there's just something beautiful about going to these holy shrines that is very enriching and just brings us into deeper conversion. So I'm very excited to go. But the Lord has also put on my heart, hey, Beth, now I want you to explore the United States. So Mike and I believe, were sort of invited by Christ to go on this trip and go to these very holy places in 3 countries. But he's also inviting me around the United States. In fact, within just like 4 or 5 hours of my own Michigan address, there are several shrines that we need to be going to see. It's just on my heart now. And I'm going to make it up to New York because that's a pretty far away for me. That would be like a plane ride, but I'm going to make it to see you guys. But honestly, everyone, look up Rosa Mystica retreat. Actually, it's Rosa Mystica Prayer House, right?
It's Rosa Mystica House of Prayer, and
Thank you.
It's near Cooperstown, upstate New York, which was another unbelievable thing when
Baseball.
Sometimes the wives go there and the husbands go to Cooperstown, and there's lots of golf places. But when Mother Leonardi,
actually, Padre Pio should hang out at Cooperstown and tell him, hey, you're at the wrong place. Get over there. All right, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But when she came there, the coordinates led to the top of this hill. It's beautiful, but the name of the road was Angel Hill Road because Mr. Angel owned the property. But what are the chances of that too? Like everybody's
my God.
how'd you get that name? They're like, that was the name, like, of the road. It's really,
his last name was Angel?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's insane. That is so beautiful. Oh my goodness.
And so many people come there. The Rosa Mystica is the prayer for priests. And we get so many vocations out of there. And so many people come there and get physical, mental healings that it's, unbelievable. And so many priests. We had a priest that came there and he had glaucoma. He didn't tell me that. And he went there and he prayed in front of the crucifix and he said, Lord, you've asked me to be a priest, but if I can't see who I'm preaching to, I don't know if maybe I shouldn't be a priest. And so the Lord healed him right from there. And he waited till he came back to tell me and bring a bus up in gratitude the next year. But when my mother was dying, it was during COVID, and they took her to a hospital. And this priest was in Manhattan, and this hospital was on Long Island. And when I get there, they think she's going to die that day. So they let me in with the COVID. And please get me the chaplain. And you have the masks on. And I'm like, Father, I go, where are you from? And he goes, is that you, Joanne? There's the priest that got healed.
Oh my gosh.
And they wouldn't let me back in then. And he says, your mother is my mother now. And I'm taking care. And then he was allowed in every day. So it's amazing how the Lord just intertwines this. And we have hundreds of healing stories. And another priest that couldn't hear for 10 years out of 1 year, and he's giving mass and his hearing comes back. And all the pilgrims that come there and pray for things. And it's just beautiful that we get these graces.
Well, and I don't know if we talk enough about the places in the United States where we can go, these shrines, these beautiful places where we can be healed and just deepen our faith. If you can't make it to Lourdes, everyone out there, go to Rosa Mystica. Find these beautiful shrines in these places that are built to heal you. They're built to steepen our faith, deepen it, and bring us closer to God. So I love it. And I'll come visit you one day for sure.
Oh my goodness. That would
be soon. Absolutely. Well, Joanne, it has been great. Any closing thoughts, remarks? I want to ask everyone to please go online, and I will have all of the links in the show notes.
It's rosamysticaofamerica.org.
And I will put that link. I will also put a link to, looks like you have a Facebook account.
Yes.
Yep. And then your artwork, I'll put that on there as
Right.
well. So all these great things. And you just need to go look at her artwork. It's so beautiful, so inspiring. It'll help you with prayer and fasting. And then get out to Rosa Mystica if you can visit, especially if you're in the New York area. Get out there, and that would be beautiful and deepen your conversion to Christ. Any last parting words, Joanne?
No, I just want to thank you so much for all the work that you do and helping everyone. And all of us are playing such an integral part at this time in history, together building up people in faith, and to be able to listen to you and all your words. And I'm looking forward to reading your book so bad.
Oh, I can't wait for you to read it. Yes, let me know what you think. So, it was great having you, Joanne. Thank you so much. God bless you. We will keep praying and fasting for you and in the saving of America, and for Rosa Mystica too. It's just beautiful. And I'll see you there one day.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. God bless, Joanne.
God bless.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast with Joanne. Please share it with your friends if it was inspiring for you, so others will hear the great message of permanent weight loss by learning to delay sugar, flour, and alcohol during the week and feast on Sundays. You can even do this during the summer. I can show you how. It really is possible. Have a great week, my friends. Keep praying and fasting, and I will talk to you next week. May God bless you and keep you always. If you are interested in learning more about spiritual fasting and permanent weight loss, then come join my course, Delay and Pray, a guided course for weight loss through spiritual fasting. You won't go through it alone either. I will be there to coach you every step of the way. This is a group coaching program where you are part of an amazing community of like-minded Catholics who have the same goal as you, to bring about miracles while losing that weight permanently through spiritual fasting. Your purchase includes an online course detailing what spiritual fasting is, how to do it, and all the tools you need to get you the results you're longing for. Head over to my website right now at thecatholicfastingcoach.com and get the details on how to join. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and LinkedIn to always get the latest daily information to help you keep fasting, my friends. Can't wait to see you in there. May God bless you and keep you always.